Okay, in today's video tutorial, we're going to look at making the TallyCounterApp. That assignment can be found in Echo after the Sprite Smash app. There are 4 parameters for our app today. First, the app must use a button to tally, and the button must use a picture. The app must have a checkbox that enables the button to work. In order to do that, we're going to introduce the if-then block today. And then you must have a reset button that also uses a checkbox, so a little bit of chance to reinforce that if-then block, and then a place to display the numbers as you count up. So from 1 to 2 to 3, a place to display that. And when you have the app finished, you're going to export that and submit that to Echo along with your answer to this conclusion question, which says describe one of the event handlers, those tannish colored blocks, from the app that you made today. Explain what happens inside of the app when that event occurs. You have two options for that today. Basically, when you press the button to count, what's going to happen, and the other option, when you press the reset button. You'll put both of those in there. Make sure you do both of those. Submit the app file and the conclusion question. Okay? So let's go over to App Inventor. You can click the link here, Google search it, whatever, make a bookmark. You should end up here at this page. If you've already got an app started called TallyCounter, you can click here and open that up. If you don't, simply click Start New Project, call it TallyCounter, click OK. So, looking at our parameters, we know that we need a couple of things here. 6 things in total. First, we need a button. This button is going to allow us to count up. This is going to be our tally button. Okay? That's from some other earlier practice there, so you shouldn't do that when you add a button. You're going to need a checkbox. I'm going to go ahead and drag that in here. We need a place to display this information. So that's going to be a label. And I'm actually going to use 2 labels. One to just say, hey, here's the counter, and another to actually display the numbers. And then I'm going to need a reset button. And I'm going to need a checkbox for it as well. Alright, so this is why you see we have to rename buttons and labels and other items, because once you start adding several of these, it's hard when you get over to the block section to know what each one of these things does. So let's just go down through the list here. Our button 1, this first button is going to be our tally button. So I'm going to rename that tally button. Okay. Now you see that I've renamed it, but it still says text for button 1 over here. I'm going to go over here, and I'm actually going to erase this text because I don't want anything to be on my button. Now, when you notice I do that, it makes the button very small. Well, we're going to put a picture here on our button. So in order to do that, we'll go out to Google. We'll search for a number or a picture, whatever. I'm just going to use the number 1. You can put a picture of anything, whatever it is you want. So I'm just going to look up for a +1. And I want this to have a transparent background. So I'm going to go to Advanced Search, select Transparent, and scroll down through here, find the number you like, or a picture you like. I like this one right here. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to view the image. And then I can right click, save image as. And then you're going to put that somewhere. I've already put that here in the document section. Give it a name. Click save. I'm going to hit cancel because I already have it on here, but you can hit save once you give it a name. Remember where you saved it because you're going to have to get it from there. So as I come back over to App Inventor, I can come over here under image. See, I already have the file in here, but if you don't, upload your file, choose it. This is where you have to remember where you saved it. Mine is in the document section. There's that picture. So I click on it, I'll click open, and it will appear right here. I'll cancel this back out. Now when I click OK, my button is a rather, well, now it's rather large. If I still have that text there, it'll just be over that. So that's why I erased it. We're going to change the size of that here in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and finish the rest of these though. checkbox 1, I'm going to rename to Tally Checkbox. Okay, and for my text, I'm going to say click to enable tallies, or to enable counter, whatever you want to put there. Okay, and again, we can change the height and width of these here in a little bit. We'll just go through here and rename them first. Label 1, that's going to be my counter label. It's just basically going to say the word counter. So counter label, and then my text over here, counter, colon, space. So we have a little space between the colon and the eventual number. When I click away from it, that's really all we're going to do with this one. We may change the size and location a little bit, but we're not going to have to program anything with that one. For label 2, this is where we're going to display the actual numbers. So I'm going to rename this to display counter. Click OK. And for my text, I'm just going to start it at 0. I could leave it blank, but this way at least we have a space, a filler for it. And when we change the size of this a little bit, it'll give us an idea of what our numbers are going to look like. And then the last two here, button 2, we're going to rename to reset button. And then for the text over here, I'm just going to put reset. And then for the checkbox, which right now is a little bit off our screen, and we'll fix that here when we readjust everything in a minute. Rename. I'm going to rename this reset checkbox. And then for the text, I'm going to say click to enable reset. Okay. Now, as you can see, things aren't quite evenly spaced out here. So you're going to have to kind of adjust these depending on what your picture is. If you're doing the exact same thing as mine, I'll show you mine real quick here. We can come over here to the tally button, and I'm going to say that the height, let's only take up 25% of the screen. And we're going to leave the width on fill parent so that it goes all the way across. Oops, fill parent, not percent. Okay, so it goes all the way across the screen. Now, excuse me, the counter label, I'm going to show you a different way to change this size. Of course, you can adjust the height and the width, but you can also change the font size. So I'm going to change this to 30, and notice it gets quite a bit larger. For the checkbox, I'm going to put that on 30 as well. In fact, I may make the word counter a little bit smaller, maybe 20 for it. Okay? You can leave it at 30 if you want. The display counter, this is the main thing. We want to be able to see this anywhere, anytime. So we're going to make that rather large. We're going to put the font size up to 100. For the reset button, you can leave it as it is. You can change the color. I'll leave that one up to you. And then for the reset checkbox, since we made the other one 30, we're going to make this one 30. All right, so you can see now we're taking up a little bit more of the screen, a little more proportionally than we were earlier. Okay, again, these can all be changed to whatever fits your needs. So this is the way our app is going to look. Now let's go over to the blocks. Okay, so we have two things we need to happen here. We need to have a button that when we click, it's going to add up, and a button that when we click, it's going to make it back to 0, and then we'll use checkboxes to enable both of those. So let's handle the tally button first. Click on tally button, and then our first event handler here, when the tally button is clicked. Okay, what do we want to have happen? Well, if a checkbox is checked, then we want it to add numbers. If it's not checked, we don't. So we're going to go back to the control section up here at the top. And our very first handler here is the if-then statement. Okay? Now, before I go on, a lot of you may wonder what this little gear is. This gear allows you to add else statements or else if statements. We'll get into that a lot later, but you won't need that for this lesson. So we have if some event occurs, then do this. Well, the event we want to happen here is if the tally box is checked. That's going to be a light green block. We can change that to checked. Notice that it fits right in there. So if the tally checkbox is checked, then what do we want to do? Well, we want to add up tallies. Right now, we don't have a variable for the tallies. Just like we did in Sprite Smash, we're going to have to create that. So we're going to say initialize global. Put that wherever we want. I'm going to call this tallies. And we're going to initialize that to 0. Most of the time when you initialize something, it's going to be set to 0. So when the tally button is clicked, then we want to say if the tally box is checked, we want to, set the global tallies. We're going to go to a math block. And we're going to say whatever the global tallies are. First time, of course, it'll be 0. Then take that number and add 1 to it. Now, again, all this does is change it in memory. If you remember from Sprite Smash, we have to display that as well. So that's going to be under our display counter. And since we're setting it, it's a dark green block. We can change this to text. And we want to set the display counter text to whatever this global tally is. So duplicate that. Or you can drag it out from the variable section, whichever one floats your boat. Now, if you want to take a pause here, test that out, see if it works. Your numbers should only change if the checkbox is checked. And if it's checked, they should add up. I'll give you a second to check that out. And then when you do that, we'll come back and do the reset button. Alright, so you've tested that out. Hopefully it works. If not, someone will be around to help you out. So, we've got our when button clicked. Should work. We've set our global variable. The only thing left to do now is set the reset button. So when reset button is clicked, what do we want to have happen? Well, instead of the tally check, we want the reset check. And this is going to go inside that if-then statement. But remember, we don't want exactly the same thing. We want to set the global tallies not to an addition, but to a 0. Because we're resetting things. And remember, we don't have that. All we've done is change the memory. We've not had that set to actually display. And so we can do the same thing here. Set the display counter to whatever the global tallies are, which now they should be 0. So you should now have a tally button that works, and you should have a reset button that works. Remember, when you're finished with this, you need to export selected project to your computer. That'll put that in your downloads. You can move that if you want to. You might want to put it in a different folder, maybe that Google Drive folder you created. And then you need to answer the conclusion question. Describe one of the event handlers from your app that you made today and explain what happens. So explain what happens in one of these two event handlers.